Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to KRSTV. This is your boy Kenny. Now remember, subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Also, follow all the information I have in the description box as well as the comment section. Also, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. Before I get started, if you're in the DMV area and you would like to get tested for HIV, reach out to GMAC, which is Gay Men's Health Collaborative. The flyers are in the beginning of this video. Reach out to them if you're in the DMV to get you a home kit so you can get tested for HIV. If you want to call them and make a same-day appointment, you can go to their location and pick one up. And also reach out to them if you're interested in getting set up for PrEP, which is HIV prevention. Also, I'm also promoting my Patreon. Become a Patreon of KRSTV. Also, if you become a Patreon, you will be called a Black Diamond because in darkness we still shine. So become a Patreon of KRSTV today. Also, reach out to my, check out my YouTube partner BK World 2, which is the Black Netflix. You get shows from Love and Hip Hop to Black Ink Crew to RuPaul's Drag Race. So after you watch this video, go and check out BK World 2 today. Now this is another mukbang. What I have for you is homemade chili. I've also added some cheese and sour cream to it just to add to the taste. And definitely chili is something that warms the soul, especially now that we're now deep in autumn and it's starting to get cold. Chili is one thing that can definitely warm your soul. But today my topic is going to be really deep because this is an issue that a lot of us face, and a lot of us are in shame to discuss it, because I for one suffer from it, and I know many Americans who suffer from it. And in recent, we've seen a lot of situations that have taken place due to this situation. And the situation I'm talking about is mental illness. Mental illness is something that a lot of times is swept under the rug. It's not discussed openly. Most people suffer in silence and in secret, and due to that, a lot of things go haywire because the condition is not being treated. And in most cases, mental illness, is genetic. It runs in your family. I, for one, am a testament to that. It runs in my family. But I can honestly share my story that I had attempted suicide in 2006, and that's when I began to seek treatment. And from this point on, even though I may have my moments, I now have the skill set to deal with some of my breakdowns or upsets. And I can say I definitely thank the Most High that I've gotten to a place where I can honestly deal with my mental illness, and actually in the stigma that comes with it, because there's a lot of stigma out here about mental illness, and it's something that sadly we have lost a lot of people because we never really dealt with mental illness in a positive light. And one of the cases I want to talk about is the recent uprising in Philadelphia involving the killing of Walter Wallace. Now, Walter Wallace definitely suffered from mental illness, and if you really saw his track record, he had a lot of run-ins with the law. He had gotten, physically aggressive with his baby mother as well as his mom. Now, you put your hands on your mama, something ain't right with you. And sadly, it led to him being killed by police. And there's this big uprising that has happened in Philadelphia where riots have broken out throughout the city. And this is something that can no longer be ignored. I mean, this was a guy who definitely suffered from extreme mental illness, and I don't know if he ever sought treatment or not, but whatever happened, he really didn't get the necessary community that he needed to get through some of that pain. And as a lot of people do, they lash out in the worst ways. And sadly, him lashing out ended his life. And it was his mother who actually called the police because he was having a mental upset. And I'm gonna be honest, I think a lot of police are not trained as to how to deal with people who are mentally ill. I'm also going to share a personal case because just like Walter Wallace, I lost a family member in the very same fashion. My cousin James, as a cousin I grew up with, a cousin that I loved, and a cousin that was just a very fun, energetic guy. But he was diagnosed with bipolar, and he was also borderline schizophrenic. And he was at a homeless shelter in Virginia where he had an upset, and he started fighting with the patrons, and the police were called. He started to fight with the police, and due to the fact that they couldn't, control him, they killed him. And it's something that has affected me, and I don't think I will ever forget that, because I had a situation where he was staying at my house, and he had an upset that freaked out my grandmother and also freaked out me and my brother as well, because this was the cousin that we loved and we grew up with, and we're now seeing him in this light. So what happened is that the police were called. He good thing he didn't hurt anyone, and I was really stressing with the police that could you guys take him to a hospital because he has a mental condition and I don't want him to hurt himself or anybody else. The police said we can't do anything unless he does something. That bothered me because here I am trying to prevent him from doing something, and yet the police, who are supposed to serve and protect, are telling me, well, we can't do anything unless he does something. So someone has to be hurt or damn near in the face of death before you actually help a mentally ill patient. That's something that really needs to be changed, which I said there needs to be a complete reform of how the police conduct themselves with the community. Because in that regard, I was trying to help him. I didn't want him to go to jail because jail would not have been the right place for someone of his condition. He needed to be in a facility where he can get treatment and get help. But the police were saying, well, we can't do anything unless he does something. So it takes somebody to get hurt or to be physically attacked for the police to act on that. And it was the same case with Walter Wallace. You know, he got aggressive with his mother. His mother called the police, you know, trying to get him help. She called the police to help him. She didn't call the police to kill her son. But sadly, due to the fact that police do not have the intellectual know-how as to how to deal with someone who's mentally ill, they just subdued him in the worst way. And it's just unfortunate that there's been this violent outbreak in Philadelphia. And I get it. You know, police brutality has gone completely out of control. We even seeing this, you know, with the SARS in Nigeria. You know, this problem of police brutality against dark-skinned people is a worldwide issue. And due to the fact that this young man was literally killed by police, that detonator just exploded. Because the black community is tired of being economically, economically oppressed, but then also oppressed by a police force that's supposed to serve and protect us. And it gets to the point where, you know, these riots and everything is a call for help. It's a call for change. It's a call for, you know, it's a call to let America know we're tired of this. We're tired of the fact that our sons, our brothers, and our fathers are being killed in the street like dogs, and no one pays for it. You know, something's got to give. And here it is, we're in this very tense election period. You know, people want real reforms that affect us in the best way. You know, and this is something that we recently, with the GMAC, we had this great discussion on Trump versus Biden with the GMAC on Zoom Live, and it was a really great discussion. And I shared that America needs surgery, because the problem with America is that America wants to hold on traditions that no longer work and are no longer applicable in the times that we're living in. Too many people are disenfranchised by this current American system, and the system needs to be, you know, revamped. It needs to be changed, where people, where pretty much all Americans can benefit from the system, not just a select few. I mean, because I really went in. I was like, look, America needs a facelift. It needs liposuction. It needs a tummy tuck. It needs Botox. It needs everything. It needs immediate surgery. Because the reason why, I mean, the American system as we know it is falling apart right now. And here it is, you still got these people who are still stuck on tradition. Tradition, a lot of times, can be to our detriment if we're not careful. Because we're human beings, we evolve, we change, our conditions change, our life structures change. The way we think about things change. So the system that we live under has to evolve just as us. Just as we do, you know, and we can no longer just continue the status quo, because the status quo is no longer working. This police, the code of conduct of the police can no longer continue. The code of systemic oppression can no longer continue. This whole, just, you know, the lesser of two evils ideology can no longer continue. We need a complete change of the system, and we have to welcome that, because we as a people contribute to the greatness of what America is, and we can't continue to just negate that, to act like it does, that it's not a reality. I mean, black people have contributed a lot to America, and America owes the black community And the one way to begin that payment is to create a system where they can benefit, a system where they can grow, a system where they no longer are subjugated to low income housing and low conditions of life. I mean, with the riches that America has, there should be no ghettos. There should be no homeless people. We're the richest country in the world, and yet the way we represent our wealth is just disgusting. You know, in my opinion, because there's so many people. There's homeless people out here. There are people who are struggling. There are people who are trying to seek opportunities to better their lives, and yet so many doors are shut in their face. I mean, not everybody who's black wants to, you know, be hood or just want to just live off the system. There are a lot of us who actually want to build businesses, to be entrepreneurs, to build schools, you know, to start our own banks, you know, build economic wealth. And due to a system that is unjust, we're not given those opportunities. And this is me not bashing America, but more telling the truth about America and why America needs to change. And that a lot of the conditions that African Americans are forced to live in are some of the root causes of why there's so many mentally ill people within those conditions. It makes me think of what Tupac had described as a rose growing out of concrete. Everybody admires how beautiful the rose is, but they totally forget the fact that it came out of concrete. It came out of hellish conditions. And do you realize that there are a lot of roses that come out of that but wilt and die? And some of them can't even become roses because of the concrete. Like, this is something we have to think about. Like, we have to create better conditions where we no longer will have cases like Walter Wallace. You know, men who actually suffer in silence because of their mental illness, because we've been brainwashed, or more like stigmatized, to suppress emotional and mental anguish. I mean, I know that for myself, because I recently suffered a breakdown, and it was due to the whole aftermath of COVID. I reached out to two people. One person was very dismissive and said that, well, you sound like a victim. How is that supposed to help somebody who suffered a breakdown? If anything, that just makes it worse. Because a lot of people don't know how to talk to somebody who's been through a mental upset. They'll say things like, you need to man up. That's one of the most disrespectful things you can say to a grown-ass man, because he is a man. He's a man who's hurting. He's a man who's broken. He's a man that needs help. And if you're not going to help him, shut up. Because there's power in words. And sometimes you saying the wrong thing can lead to somebody's detriment. And that's something that's going to be on you. So I think the black community as a whole needs to be really educated on the seriousness of mental illness. And that is not something to take lightly. It's not something that you can just continue to sweep under the rug, because it gets worse over time. And it can lead to what happened with Walter Wallace. Or what recently happened with Tamar Braxton. Because I'm about to talk about her too. But yet I talked to another person who told me, you're not a victim. You're a person who's hurting. You're a person who's been through a lot. You're a person that has been not only physically affected, but spiritually affected. And what he did was sent me a message, to check out a service, and I must say it really did help me. See, that's how you help somebody who's mentally ill. You don't say things like, well, you sound like a victim, or you need to man up, and it's very disrespectful, and it's very condescending, and it's evil, because you're using that person's pain to make you feel better about yourself. And it's disgusting. And personally, I hate it. And I imagine so many other black men have dealt with that. So how we expect for our black men to be upstanding citizens and to do great things when yet we're always giving them BS? What do you think is going to happen? I mean, take Walter's situation. I mean, he may have come from a loving family, but did that loving family do all they can to help him with his mental anguish? Or did he hear some of the things that I've heard? You need to man up. You acting like a victim. You need to rise, and you need to stop acting like a punk. Saying, things like that. How do we not know that those type of things that were said to me were said to him, and he internalized it, and it just made him more and more angry and more aggressive, to the point where he was like, fuck everybody. Thug life. The hate you give the hate you give now lives in me. So a lot of these problems are rooted in our childhoods and how we were treated as children. And there are a lot of stories of a lot of black, men and women, girls and boys, who have been dealt with a lot of trauma. And if that problem and that pain is not nurtured and cared for, it gets worse over time. Now I'm going to talk about Tamar Braxton. Tamar just did this phenomenal interview with Tamron Hall. And in this interview, she revealed a lot. And these were things that I always suspected about Tamar. But once she revealed it, I was like, wow, now a lot of it makes sense. Because I've always liked Tamar. I think Tamar is a phenomenal talent. I love her voice. I mean, to tell you the truth, I think she's the best singer in the family. I mean, I love me some Tony. I love me some Tony Braxton. But Tamar literally has the voice of the family. Like, she has this incredible range that just blows you away when you hear her sing. But Tamar shared that she had low self-esteem, and that the person that we saw on Braxton Family Values wasn't really her, but more of an image of her playing a role. And once she tried to, and what led her to her suicide attempt was that when she got her own show, Get Your Life, she wanted to show a more positive image of herself, but the network wanted her to keep up with the caricature because it makes money. Sometimes it's really, really important. I mean, because I'm in social media myself, and if you're a person that's in media, it is very, very important that whatever you display, you are expressing your authenticity. Because the worst thing to do is to create a caricature that's not you, and then that's what's celebrated, that's what's making money, and after a while you become trapped by it. It literally becomes your enemy. And we've seen this in many cases. We saw it with Whitney Houston. The image of the pop princess wasn't who she was. It was what the industry created, and she became trapped by it. And we see this a lot with a lot of people who They find a niche that isn't who they are, and that's what they capitalize on. And then you're trapped by it because you have to constantly be that thing that isn't the real you. So it's very important that whatever you do, be your authentic self. And I'm so happy that Tamar, has recovered, and I've seen her do this interview, and I definitely see she's a totally different person. She was a person that had been through a lot of trauma in her life, that been through a lot of hardships, and it just got worse over time. So I think it's very, very important that we no longer turn a blind eye to mental illness. We no longer turn a blind eye to people who are suffering from it. We no longer say hateful speech or nasty things that could trigger somebody's condition. And that we learn to be more passionate and loving with one another, because we have been through a lot, historically, and those things still affect us to this day. But we have to take the moral responsibility to be better and to do better. We can't call for other races to respect us if we don't respect each other. It starts at home. So we need to clean our house, and we need to do it while we still can. But I definitely celebrate Tamar for telling her truth. I felt the interview was very, revealing of how she got trapped by her image of being the angry black woman, how that image, affected her relationship with her family, and how them being, public figures affected their family dynamic. I mean, sometimes fame and fortune can be the detriment of your life. I mean, it's all nice to have the money and the success, but your authenticity and your well-being, the things that is not always shown on television, those things are extremely important. And if those things aren't nourished, no matter how much money you have, you can be the most miserable person in the world. Because money doesn't make you happy. It only magnifies your current condition. And another good thing that money does, it does give you options. So I'm not negating not having money, because that's one of my stresses, financial difficulties. But I'm optimistic that I'm going to overcome my situation. And I'm optimistic that Tamar will continue to recover, and that hopefully this video helps someone who's battling mental illness to know that you're not alone, and that you need to get yourself around people who truly value your health and well-being, and to take the necessary steps to deal with the illness and to deal with it in an effective way. So that's what I have, y'all. Get down in those comments and let me know your thoughts on this subject. I know I tripped up a lot in this episode, but because this is like really hard hitting, because this is something that I deal with in my life, and I know I'm not alone. So I take the responsibility of using my platform to not only entertain you guys, but to also uplift and educate, those who may be going through some serious trials and tribulations. And hopefully this video could be of help to you, and that it could actually inspire you to face your demons and to face it with strength and dignity. So yeah, get down in those comments, let me know your thoughts, y'all. So until next time, everybody, take care.